So the next thing I want to talk about is the functionality of the Clevertouch Pro Series and a lot of our interactive displays without a device connected. So as you may know already, many of our devices now, in fact all of our interactive range, are EDLA certified. So first of all, one of the great things there is that we do have access to the Play Store, so we can download applications that we see being used more and more often or commonly in a range of different environments. So for example, you can see some of those applications that we've put here on the display already. So we have Google Classroom, we have the Slides application, we have the PowerPoint application, Canva, and a couple of others that we just see people using on a day-to-day basis, and having them available without a device connected means that if you do have someone coming into the room who perhaps doesn't have access to some of the resources, can actually access everything from their cloud drive very easily from on the display itself with nothing connected. And the other thing is, how can we move around? How can we utilize the new EDLA and this new operating system that we have here? A couple of sort of tips and tricks or things that we particularly like about how we can utilize this. So one, for example, is the widgets function. So one of the first things that I typically get asked is, how can we make it easy for us to access and visit our bookmarks or go to a website to find information and have that accessible from the home screen here? So very easy to do. All we're going to do is we're going to hold down on the screen. We're going to come into our widgets section here, and we're going to go to something like Chrome, and we're going to add in our Chrome bookmarks. Once that's been added, now if I was to go to Chrome, for example, and let's say I'm going to go to Canva. Okay, so I'm going to click through on that. It's going to load through. I'm going to load into Canva. I could possibly go to the login page, for example. Okay, so here we are. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to come over. I'm going to bookmark that now in the top right. We can see that little star, and we can see that it's a mobile bookmark. So now, whenever I come back to my display, whenever I come back on there, we can see if I want to go to Canva very quickly and I wasn't using the application, so this could be maybe activities or something separate, we can get that very easily and we can put that on the home screen itself. Also, now that we have access to things like Slides, for example, so when you've signed in, when you sign into, for example, your G Drive on the board, or you sign into the Play Store, for example, straight away, whenever you go into any of the Google applications, so I'm already signed in, okay, we can see it's automatically signed me in there, and it's going to come through to all of my lessons and things that I may want to run through without having anything connected. Okay? So, for example, if I wanted to do something like formative tech testing here, you see Google Slides, and just double tap on that, I can open it up, and now we have our Google Slides or our Google presentation here and easy to use. But one of the things we often hear about Google Slides is, okay, well, it's great that I'm now able to open that from the device without going into anything, without going into the drive. I can open it straight from that application, but what if I want to annotate over the top? Or what if I want to go through this presentation and make some notes or annotate? So let's go ahead and play this presentation. Okay, so we're going to present on this device. Okay, and we're not going to grant any permissions for any controls just there. So here's our presentation. We can now slide through as we would expect to, so just by swiping from left to right to move through the presentation. But let's say we wanted to annotate. So one of the great features with Clevertouch is a feature that we add which is called CleverInk. So what that means is, rather than having to find any annotation tools or coming to the floating toolbar, which strangely is very easy to find on the Clevertouch, so it is a floating toolbar. If we want to find that, we simply put two fingers on the screen and we can actually bring that floating toolbar straight to our hand. And we're going to go through some of the tools and features and things that are in here that can help. But actually we don't need to do that on the Clevertouch Pro Series or any of our models, the Clevertouch Pro Series, the Clevertouch Luxe, that have what the feature we call CleverInk. What does that mean? We can simply come to the bottom, pick up the pen, okay, and we can start to annotate straight away. Right, the moment we pick up the pen, the moment we start to annotate, we'll see this additional toolbar appear. Okay, so we can move between various different colors. Okay, line thicknesses, colors, and settings there, along with the highlighter. And then we can actually use the rear of the pen as well to erase those annotations. Another great feature with CleverInk, okay, among the other features like being able to save that, being able to save it to your cloud drive, or even bring up a QR code if you then want to share that with students in the room, is the fact that actually the screen behind is still live, so I can actually continue to swipe, okay, so I do have to capture as I go. But one of the benefits of having this ability to move with the annotations is we're also one of the very few that will enable you to actually annotate over a video whilst that continues to play. Okay. And we're continuing to develop CleverInk so that actually in the future you'll be able to go into certain documents and the annotations will change from being over the top as they are here to actually into the document itself. When I'm done with those annotations, if I haven't saved them, I can just hit the X and I can come back out. Now, when it comes to moving around the Clevertouch Pro Series or moving around the Clevertouch, within that floating toolbar, very easy. We have a home and a back button, so whenever I'm anywhere else on the display, I can actually just hit the home button and it's always going to take me back to that familiar location that I'm used to. So whilst we have a minute, let's just go through a couple of the tools that are always at your fingertips. Okay, so we have a home and a back button. We have our inputs if we want to reach them. So let's say potentially if we're not using CleverShare and we have our phone as our document camera, if we do have a document camera in our HDMI, in the Type-C, for example, we can move to those sources very easily. Okay, so we can just press that and it's going to bring it up at any time. As much as you do receive a remote with the Clevertouch as well, this is also where your volume controls are. And we can see that even though the brightness is turned right down here, obviously everything is still very visible and very clear, and we can adjust that as we need to. It also has auto brightness, so if you are in a room with a lot of windows or there's bright lights, you can turn that on and the board will adjust depending on the lighting of the room. Moving through that toolbar very quickly, just to explain a couple of the other things that you have in here. So one of which, for example, is the active screens. So we can see that shows me everything that is open on the device. So if I did want to do something like a simple split screen, at the moment I have my Google Slides open. So let's go into a split screen. And then I'm going to pick the other screen that I would like. So on this occasion, let's just go with the built-in whiteboard. Okay, so now we have our Google slide on the back. And you can see on the left-hand side, we also have our whiteboard. So we can choose between a range of tools as we need to so that we can continue to annotate around what we're doing. If we want to go back to a full screen mode, we simply drag that over, okay, and it's going to go straight back into my Google slide so that I can continue through with that lesson. And again, we're going to use that floating toolbar, we're going to hit home, we're going to come back out. So nice and simple, all with that floating toolbar. Okay, we've got back, home, our inputs and our dual screens. Now we also then have a quick link to the whiteboard. Okay, so on this occasion, our Pro Series here has been configured to launch our cloud-based whiteboard, which we're going to cover a little bit later on. Okay, but actually we can now just jump straight into a whiteboard. Another great tool that's at the fingertips there. So once you have that whiteboard open, as we have now, let's say we wanted to capture something on the screen. It might be from a web page, it might be from a student's device that's being cast to the screen. So then another one of the tools that's at your fingertips just here is the scissor icon. So we can grab anything we want from any screen on the Clevertouch. You can see we have options then to save that, insert that into another board, exit as well. But if we just hit insert, what it's going to do is that's going to take that capture and drop it straight into that whiteboard. So another really handy tool if you want to collate information from various sources. And again, remember that we're doing all of this without actually connecting any device to the Clevertouch here. This is all the capabilities of the product itself. Coming back out and just adding a couple more features in here that I like to go through. So anyone who's moved away from projection will appreciate that you do have screen freeze that is in that toolbar. So if you do have your laptop connected or you do have a device connected and you want to freeze that and leave it on the screen and then go away and continue to work, you can just simply hit the snowflake icon here and that will freeze the screen. You have a lock button as well if you ever want to add a pin or you want to walk away from the display. And then actually just before we move on to some of the other features, other pieces of software, just quickly we also have this wrench here. And that wrench is going to open up some onboard tools and things to add to that experience when you're using the Clevertouch. So we're going to quickly cover those off, one of which is the spotlight tool. okay, which we can adjust as we need to down here at the bottom with the tools that automatically appear on the screen. We also have an option in that same wrench there for a timer, which is a very well used tool that's accessible. So we can just simply add a 5-second timer to the screen. If we tap when that timer is up, we'll see that it'll dock down there at the bottom. And then when that timer comes up, we will then see that up on the screen. And we have our sound turned off just for the filming today. Finally, another tool that you can find under that little wrench section is our Air class features just here. So this looks like a hand with 4 little squares. And this gives you the ability to, without any other devices, without anything connected, to gain quick instant response from students and have some interaction in the classroom as well. So I can scan that QR code and it's going to ask me to input my name on my device. Okay, and now I'm joined. So I'm now going to enter the class, and let's say we had a Google slide up. So let's go back into our Google slide, very easy to get to. We can come back in here. Let's go analyzing evidence here on a metabolism. Okay, so we can see I can still use and work through everything, even though I have my new Air class tools just here. So we've got a warm-up exercise that's in here. Let's just scroll up so we can see that a bit more clearly. And now what I can do is I can ask the students which claim is correct. So let's do a voter. Is it A, B, or C? So now I have to begin the exercise down in the right-hand side. Start to vote. So I'm going to say the answer is B. And as I'm the only one who's in the class, once I've answered, I can actually click to then see the results as well once I finish. Okay? And I can see that the main class answered 100% B, and then I can export that if I want to. There are a couple of other useful tools that come as part of that Air class feature, such as a selector. So if you have multiple people connected and you simply just want to make sure everyone is involved with the presentation, you can increase this. Obviously with just me here, it's only going to be the one person, but I can hit start and I can see that that has selected me. Okay. Finally, there is a messaging tool here, a responder tool, and also a judge there. So you have a range of tools that, again, very easily accessible without any devices connected, running off the device itself, and tools that Clevertouch have provided to just ensure that you get the most interactivity and ability out of the interactive display that you have. So in summary, even without a device connected, you can see it's very easy to move around the display. It's very easy to configure this as you would like to, so that you have all of your tools, all of the applications, all of the websites that you would use on a daily basis at your fingertips, ready to go, whether you bring a device in or not. And it's very simple to begin to utilize tools that come with the toolbar as well, the floating toolbar, such as annotation, such as moving to the whiteboard, such as freezing the screen, and simply using some of those Air class tools. So wide range of functionality, easy to move around, lots of tools, and if you need to, you have the ability to use it very simply with just accessing the applications that you may know and love.